Thank you very much again for the introduction and the opportunity to be here with you today. It's just a great privilege for me to join with you. I love celebrating United Methodist Women's Sunday, not only because of all the good work that you have all done for Cunningham Children's Home over 126 years, but also because I was raised by a really great United Methodist woman. And so I've known all of my life the good work that you all do as United Methodist women for the church and for the community. And I love to tell the story about Mom. When I took this job 5 years ago, I had been with the Boy Scouts for 35 years, my entire career. And so 5 years ago, I made this career change. And at the time, my mom was living in a memory care unit in Burlington, Iowa, because dementia had started to erode her memory and quite frankly, her filter a little bit. So I went over one Sunday and went to visit her. And so I took her to lunch. And so we were sitting in a restaurant and lunch, and the after-church crowd started coming in. And a lot of them knew Mom. Some of them remembered me. So they would stop at the table and say hello, and they were so happy to see her, and she was happy to see many of her longtime friends. And then they would go off to their tables and sit down. And so after they'd all kind of come in, Mom kind of looked at me. She said, "So this new job, you're not with the Boy Scouts." I said, "Not anymore." And she said, "You're going to be working for a children's home." And I said, "Yeah." And she kind of looked at me. She said, "With the United Methodist Women?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm going to be working with the United Methodist Women because they run the children's home." And she said, "You're going to be raising money for them?" And I said, "Yep, that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be raising money from United Methodist Women and other groups to support the program of Cunningham Children's Home." And she thought for a minute, and then she looked across the room and pointed at a table and said very loudly, "Well, don't bother with them. They're the Presbyterians." So I assured her that we would take money from anyone who wanted to help the kids at Cunningham Children's Home. So it's just such a great joy to be here today and share with you some of the things going on at Cunningham Children's Home. You know, the peace and comfort that we find in worshiping together has never been more important. And because of our traditional worship practices have been disrupted by the pandemic, it makes gathering together to honor God even more special. It's good to follow the signs that tell us to yield or even stop for a while and feel God's presence. But the last 18 months have challenged us all. Our world came to an abrupt and nearly complete halt when we dare to carefully venture out into the world, it seems like it's one big traffic jam. It has been stop and go traffic for all of us for some time. Because of COVID-19, we have all adapted to some new rules. We've stayed home as much as we could. We're wearing masks. We're keeping our distance from other people, even those we love. And until recently, we haven't even been able to sing in church. A lot of new rules. Some of the rules have been easier to accept than others, but rules are rules. Nevertheless, most of us would agree that especially in uncertain times like these, rules can be a good thing. Rules keep us safe. They keep us healthy. They protect others around us. Rules can be very important. When John Wesley founded the Methodist movement in 1739, those first Methodists needed some guidance. They asked John to come up with some rules. They didn't want him to go crazy, just a couple good rules to go by. John obliged and named them 3 simple rules. Number 1, do no harm. Number 2, do good. And number 3, stay in love with God. I think Judge Joseph and Mary Cunningham took these simple rules to heart when they deeded their home to the women of the Methodist Episcopal Church, which today, of course, we know as the United Methodist Women. In 1895, 126 years ago, on the day they gave their home for the purpose of taking care of children in need, Judge Joe wrote in his journal, "May God's blessing go with this gift, and may it be the means of doing much good." Through the years, we've evolved in how we help children, but even though Cunningham Children's Home is no longer a traditional orphanage, I believe Judge Joe and Mary would be so pleased that their gift continues to follow these simple rules in the way we serve youth and families today. Cunningham Children's Home today serves youth, young adults, and their families dealing with serious emotional and behavioral challenges. Last year, we provided care to 794 individuals and families through 3 main programs: residential treatment, community-based counseling services, and special education. Most of the people we serve are referred to us through state and community child welfare agencies. 55% of those are children, youth, and young adults between the ages of 10 and 19. A lot of people believe that many of the kids come from Chicago, but actually 95% of them come from right here in central Illinois within a 2-hour radius of Champaign-Urbana. I think Wesley's 3 simple rules apply to how we live out our mission at Cunningham. Those 3 simple rules impact the kind of care we give to the kids and families we serve. Rule number 1, do no harm. Recently, life hasn't been easy for Julian and his family, as Julian has had multiple run-ins with law enforcement. He had always been a good kid, doing well in school and participating in extracurricular activities. Scared and confused about how quickly his life was spiraling down a troubling path, Julian agreed to participate in Cunningham's Families Stronger Together program. Designed to interrupt the school-to-prison pipeline, this voluntary program for first-time offenders in the juvenile justice system is designed to not only provide support to the troubled individual, but their family unit as well. In a Zoom therapy session with 2 Cunningham family support therapists and his parents, Julian was able to vocalize for the first time that he was experiencing both audio and visual hallucinations. Despite previous meetings with counselors and police, he had never been able to piece together the triggers of his out-of-character behavior. With this new information about Julian's mental health struggles, the Family Stronger Together team was able to work with his parents on communication to the state's attorney, who recognized this development indicated Julian was in need of psychiatric evaluation rather than charges that would eventually lead to a prison term. Families Stronger Together is just one of Cunningham's many community service programs which work with children, adults, and families who are facing difficult life situations. With programs that help with those facing homelessness, individuals facing mental illness, foster families experience behavioral challenges with youth that threatens the stability of them remaining in the home, transitional and independent living opportunities for runaway and homeless youth, parenting and life skills education for young single parents, and vocational options for individuals with intellectual and behavioral difficulties. Our staff are bringing their knowledge and expertise in trauma-informed care to reach families in crisis in communities that span 14 counties. Charlene, a Cunningham Community Services caseworker, says this: everyone deserves to be treated with dignity and respect, whether it is mental illness or substance abuse issues or someone just down on their luck. Sometimes people just need that helping hand to boost to get back on track. Seeing individuals come into our program wondering where they're going to sleep that night or get their next meal is heartbreaking. But knowing that you can make a difference in someone's life is a great feeling. And the need is great. This past year, we served over 500 individuals and families through our community service programs. Because of Cunningham, Julian and so many others have a chance to receive the care they need to get back on a better path. Rule number 2, do good. Above Mrs. Overman's desk in her classroom at Circle Academy hangs a picture of dandelions painted by her mother. When my siblings and I were younger, we would always bring dandelions to my mother, she explains. While dandelions are actually weeds, we saw them as flowers. Seeing beauty when others may not has stuck with Mrs. Overman throughout her life and her career as an educator. Youth who participate in Circle Academy education programs in Urbana and Rossville live with their families in surrounding communities. They have unique behavioral and emotional challenges which prevent them from being successful in the public school environment. Our therapeutic education model identifies the individual needs and strengths of each student and builds on those strengths, both academically and behaviorally. The goal is to help students progress and be able to successfully return to public school. I set the bar high, she says, because I have worked in public school and I want these kids to be prepared for what will be expected of them once they return to public school. Mrs. Overman has a unique approach in how she runs her classroom or school family, as she prefers to call it. Her focus is on the entire classroom unit being successful, involved, and accountable. Mrs. Overman's approach to teaching is firm, direct, and loving. Her response to student behavior is not to correct the negative, but to use positive statements that will enforce good. Comments like, "I like how your hands are by your side when you walk," way to get back on track, or "touchdown, good job," encourage behavior, positive behavior by pointing out the responsible decisions they are making to excel in their day. One of her students, Mara, enthusiastically proclaims, "I love it," when asked about Mrs. Overman's class. "It's the best class I've ever been in," the young girl says with a wide-eyed smile. Leo, one of Mara's classmates, agrees. "She's a good teacher," he says. In Mrs. Overman's classroom sits the picture of her mom that serves as a constant reminder to always see the beauty, even when others don't. Mrs. Overman says, "I tell my students, I see flowers when I look at you." While our staff across all departments at Cunningham do much good, so do our youth. One of my coworkers really made me smile when she shared with me a story about one of our kids. Brooke told me that it was a Tuesday afternoon just before Christmas. She said, "I was plugging away at my desk and I suddenly heard, 'Brooke, Brooke, where's Brooke?' echoing loudly out in the lobby of the Spiritual Life Center. She peeked out of her office door just in time to see Chaplain Gay point her out to one of our youth. Jeremy, in her direction, said, "I've got friendship bracelets," he declared as he burst into her office. "I made them myself, and I want you to have one." He proudly flung open his carrying case filled with over 50 tricolored braided bracelets and began to rattle off his current inventory by color. Jeremy had made the bracelets to give to staff members to show how much he appreciated everything they do for him. Jeremy probably has little understanding of what Brooke's job is at Cunningham, but Chaplain Gay had explained to him that she was part of the advancement team, which helps get donations so Cunningham kids can have clothing, special outings, and Christmas gifts. So Jeremy wanted to make sure Brooke got one of his bracelets. Brooke shares that she was overwhelmed by Jeremy's kind gesture and his spirit of generosity. She says it was especially good to see Jeremy excited because he had recently suffered a big disappointment. Always focused and vocal about wanting to become part of a family with a mom, dad, and siblings, Jeremy had that opportunity with a foster family that fall, but it didn't work out, leaving him discouraged. As Chaplain Gay helped Jeremy work through this difficult time, they talked about positive things and activities Jeremy could focus on. Chaplain Gay also shared with him the Bible verse from Acts 20:35. "In everything I did, I showed you that by this kind of hard work, we must help the weak, remembering the words of the Lord Jesus himself said, 'It is more blessed to give than to receive.'" After talking with Captain Gay, Jeremy began his friendship bracelet project. He feels if he participates in meaningful acts of kindness during this hard time, goodness will find its way back to him. Doing nice things to others also gives him hope. Rule number 3, stay in love with God. When Damien first came to Cunningham's residential treatment program, he struggled to manage his emotions and had multiple violent outbursts each day. Through therapy and the love and support of the Cunningham staff, Damien learned coping mechanisms to better control his behavior, which has helped him to grow in many ways, including spiritually. Terrence, a staff member working with Damien, recalls some of their first conversations. During my first year, Damien saw me praying a few times during quiet time and started to ask me how prayer works, said Terrence. Over time, this turned into teaching him how to pray by starting with having an open conversation with God. One night, we came across the Proverbs verse that says, "Trusting in God can make your path easier," and we talked about our own way of thinking could take us down the wrong path, as well as all the hurdles we face while going down that path. Following that talk, Damien had a really good span of 2 weeks without any anger or outbursts. Terrence says our conversations really stuck with him. A lot of things Terrence taught Damien has made a difference. Damien shares that Terrence taught me to take one day at a time. He helps me to have fun, smile, be respectful, loving, and caring. It doesn't always show, but inside, I really care for others. Not only do I want to love others, but to love others like Jesus did. I want to grow up and give to others what I've been given here. Our kids in the residential treatment program, like Damien, are with us 24/7 and receive some of the best care throughout the state. They come to us after an average of 7 other placements living with relatives, foster care, other residential treatment centers, or even juvenile detention. They suffer from psychological and behavioral disorders as a result of repetitive, prolonged trauma involving sustained abuse or abandonment by a caregiver. At Cunningham, we recognize the role trauma has played in these young lives and how it overwhelms them and their ability to cope. When a child is subject to physical and emotional abuse at a young age, that trauma literally affects the development of the brain. Brain development is severely delayed or may stop altogether, leaving the child with a behavioral age level at the time of the abuse. In many cases, the brain function is stuck in fight or flight mode, unable to respond in appropriate ways to situations that you and I might easily manage. I like to use the example of a fire alarm. Imagine you are in a room and a fire alarm goes off. We've all heard that loud, screeching, pulsating sound, and we know how jarring it can be. When we hear it, we quickly assess the situation, and if there is danger, we move out of the room, or if there is no danger present, we flip the switch to turn off the alarm. But imagine if you couldn't get out of the room. And what if the switch of the alarm was broken? You're trapped in a room and that alarm blaring and no escape. How would you respond then? You might pick up a chair and throw it through a window to get out. You might punch a hole in the ceiling around the fire alarm trying to stop it. After a long time, you might lose your temper with others in the room, shouting at them. Or you might just curl up in the corner, covering your ears. You would do anything, even responses that seem uncharacteristic to you, to stop that alarm. That's kind of what it's like when our kids experience stress or a sense of danger. That alarm goes off in their head, but in their brain, the switch is broken. So they act out the only way they know how to make it stop. They scream, punch, kick, fight, or run away. So at Cunningham, our job is to fix that switch in their brain, to help them learn how to assess the situation and respond in appropriate ways. This, through intense psychological treatment, we help them to get developmentally caught up and back on track. We do this with a community of highly skilled, caring staff who listen to and work with our youth to provide this type of environment. When we understand where our youth are coming from, we can give them the right kind of care so they can process their past, learn to self-regulate, and form healthier relationships. Following Wesley's 3 simple rules has a great influence on how we reach our kids at Cunningham. Would you agree that the same 3 simple rules can be transformative in your own life too? Oftentimes, the 3 simple rules are demonstrated in ways that we never expect. Lifting up someone in prayer, an encouraging word, a volunteer opportunity, or an anonymous gift. There are so many people helping our kids by following Wesley's simple rules. The quilts made by the UMW from every corner of the Illinois Great Rivers Conference are a wonderful example of helping our kids. They are beautiful and a constant reminder to our kids that they are loved and safe at Cunningham. Prayer is, of course, so important. And you can pray for our kids, their families, our staff with a prayer day calendar on our website, cunninghamhome.org. Some people choose to redeem box tops for education on their new app. Box tops provide the schools at Cunningham with roughly $3,500 each year. Those 10-cent coupons really do add up and are a simple way to make a difference. We use the money donated from box tops to take our youth on field trips or purchase items for the classroom. A significant way of supporting our programs is by becoming a guardian parent. Guardian parents provide financially through regular giving to Cunningham. A Cunningham volunteer, Sybil, shares that she recently became one of our guardian parents. Sybil says, "The more I learned about the ongoing education and therapy needs of the youth at Cunningham, I wanted to do more. I looked into the Guardian Parent program and knew immediately that it was the best way for me to make a difference each and every day." Guardian parents help us fill the gap between what state and child welfare agencies reimburse us and what it actually costs to care for each youth. Right now, the gap is $37 a day for each child living with us. Our guardian parents often give $37 a month to help ease that burden. No matter how you provide for our kids at Cunningham, quilts, Christmas gifts, volunteering, or financial support, your devotion is deeply appreciated. Thank you so much. I want to close with one last story from Chaplain Gay. Every Wednesday evening, she leads worship for our youth where they receive a relevant message and have the opportunity to stay in love with God. She shares this. Once a month we have communion, and different youth assist me with the bread and cup. One night Ethan wanted to help. I showed him where to stand and what to say. When his peers came forward to receive communion, Ethan stood next to me with the cups. I gave the bread and said, "Eat and be thankful." He followed with, "Drink and be thankful." This continued until I realized Ethan was no longer saying, "Drink and be thankful." I looked at him and Ethan had tears streaming down his face. He was too emotional to speak. After the service, I talked with Ethan and he explained that as he was offering Christ's love to others, he had experienced Jesus in his own heart. Really, to follow Wesley's simple rules means to love. Love is the very basis of Christian life. We are all given love as a gift from God. But when we keep it ourselves, we will slowly but surely lose it. But if we share it and if we give it away, we won't ever worry about having enough. And that's a good rule to follow.